Alright, let's practice our aim. So, the first thing we want to do is pick the easiest practice pattern. So, what makes it easy is going to be how easy it is to control the gun you're using and the movement. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to pick the R301 because the R301, when you aim down sights, it has and you move around, it forces you to move a lot slower, and that's going to be useful as our first practice. You want it easy as possible. And then the hop up we're going to use is the 1x hollow. Pick this one because if you look at this, you aim down sights, you get this yellow ring, which is much easier to see than, say, you do the 1x classic. All you get is the dot. So I know some people will prefer the dot, but really the 1x hollow, the yellow ring, is a lot easier to see. It's a little distracting, but if you're just practicing this, I recommend it. Then we'll pick the best barrel stabilizer and then the best stock. So in that way, the gun will move around the least when you fire bullets. So we're really trying to make this easy as possible. So we've got all of our attachments. We're going to switch the bullets to single fire mode because that's going to be also a lot easier than shooting a lot of bullets. And the thing we want to do here in the very beginning is just work really slowly, right? You don't want to do anything fast or quick because you really want to be controlled. And this is, since you're in the firing range, you have this freedom to just play as slow as you want, which you can't really do in a normal game. So what we're gonna do is first aim down sights, so your movement is fairly slow, right? Move side to side. And there are different kind of practice exercises you can do, but one of the first things you want to be able to do is track the enemy while you're moving, right? While you're moving. So this is just a left to right, right? And we're not firing yet, we're just seeing if we can keep the yellow circle targeted to the dummy's head. And how jittery is it? How smooth is it? And then you just really just focus on your mouse hand. The keyboard doesn't have to do anything, just the mouse hand. You want it to try to almost lock on to his head while you're moving really slowly. Right, really slowly. And you'll notice like there's a certain way to move the mouse, certain way to hold the mouse that makes this easier. And you're just countering the leftward movement by sliding your mouse the other direction, and then the rightward movement, and you slide your mouse to the left. So you go left, right, left, right, and you'll notice it's going to be jittery, right? Because it's not that easy to get it perfectly in sync, but at least you're trying to get it in sync, right? And what you're trying to do is just get used to the hand motion. Just get used to locking on and moving in the opposite direction. So you're just countering the keyboard movements. Okay. So you do that for a while, and then you could start just moving and firing. And it'll force you to kind of track, right? So you fire a bullet, you move, and you fire again. You move, you fire again. So you want to track while you're doing this. Move, fire, move, fire, move, fire, move, fire, move, fire, right? When the dummy dies, just reload. So you're just trying to stay tracked and fire. And if you can't do this quickly, that's totally fine. You want to do it slow as necessary. So you fire a bullet, you move, don't rush, get that mouse where you want it to be, get your aim where you want it to be. It's gonna be jittery. It's gonna jitter, but then you wanna once you stop moving, you should be pretty close, and you just want to move the mouse to where you need it to be, and then fire. Right? Don't fire in advance. Right? So you fire, it gets jittery, and then you focus in on the head, and then you fire. So only fire once you've locked on. Right? Only fire once you've locked on. It's like one of those flying airplane shooting games. Once the missile gets locked on, then you fire. Right. So don't worry too much that it's jittery. That jitter will slowly start to calm the more you do this, right? The more you warm up to this. And part of the jitter is actually, there's recoil, but in this case, I've got all the attachments, so there's not a lot of recoil. The other part of the jitteriness is that the ground you're walking on isn't flat, right? There's all these like bumps and grooves and rocks on the ground, which is going to cause you to kind of move up and move down, move up, down. You see that? Like it's not a smooth surface. So it's hard to track like, every rock, because you don't know what rock you're about to step on unless you memorize this floor or something. But what you want to do is really just be able to lock on quicker, right? So after you move, you lock on, you move, right? You want to be able to lock on pretty quick. If you can lock on pretty quick, you don't have to worry too much. You want to stay focused on it, on the head. You know it's going to move around because of the floor, so don't worry too much about that part. You can stress yourself out trying to get it perfect, but we're not really aiming for perfect. We're just trying to get the feel, right? Just get the feel pretty good, and try to make sure you get all those headshots in by being patient with when you fire. You're not just randomly firing as fast as you can. You want to sort of feel what it takes and how much time you need between shots for it to be accurate. And what we're going to try to do is, as you get more used to the movement, be able to do this faster and faster, right? But it's not going to come right away. So if you need to go slow, you should, right? If you need to do 1, 2, 1, 2, right? Just put the time between shots that you need to really get that position, get your aim right where you want it before you fire. It's not just randomly firing or firing as fast as you can. You want to line it up. That's what aim is, right? It's just lining it up. And so you're practicing a lot of things. You're practicing tracking. You're practicing seeing when to fire. You're practicing reloads. And you'll notice one's direction is going to be a lot harder than the other. In this case, I think for most right-handed players, moving left is harder than while you're strafing right. For some reason, it's easier this direction than pulling away, because it has to do with your hand and the muscles you have. Like, if you were to, it's always easier to pull in because you have like bicep muscles, right? You have bicep muscles which want to grab something and then pull it into your chest, but you don't have like a huge muscle for pushing something away, like out, right? If you try to move your muscles out, right? So it's a lot easier to like if you wanted to pull something really quick, you'd pull it towards your chest. You wouldn't, like a rope or something, and you needed to hang on to it. You would grab it and pull it in, rather than, grab it and push it out. Like there's no muscle there. There's no power. So it's always easier to move left. So you're gonna have to work a little bit harder going strafing to your right and moving, but it's something you really want to think about. Like where do you have an imbalance? What is your weakness? And then you focus on that weakness a little bit more to get some more balance, because you don't want to be one-sided all the time. You don't want to always strafe to the left, because that becomes a predictable pattern for other players. So you could strafe left a few times, start strafing right. And it's not about being perfect. It's just getting the reps in while you're focused. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just get the reps in, while you're trying to improve, right? You gotta be conscious about trying to improve. It's not random, and it's not like you're not rushing anything. You're thinking about, oh, okay, like that time it moved too much. Why did it move too much? Is my hand in a weird spot on the mouse? Did I pull it too far left, so now it's like at the edge of my surface area, the mouse? If it's at the edge, it's going to be a lot harder to control than if it's right dead center. So as you're moving, right, you're not lifting the mouse and repositioning every time. So you're kind of creeping across the mouse pad or the surface, and eventually you're going to get to a point where like it just feels so uncomfortable to move anymore in that direction that it's so hard to control. So at this point, you can either go back the other direction, or you'd have to reposition the mouse by lifting it up and then putting it back to center, right? So after a couple shots, you can try this. 2, 3, and then after this 4th shot, I'm gonna just like reposition my mouse. So now it's back to the center of the surface, right? And then reposition. So that's also good practice, and it's just something to keep in mind when you're practicing your aim, because it's easy to think, oh, hey, I'm not improving, things are getting worse. Why is my aim like so erratic? It's because of these little things, right? It's because you're moving across your mouse pad, further and further away from the natural position of your hand. It gets harder and harder to tweak. So what you're really improving is, when you talk about improving your aim, it's the way your hand is able to make these tiny adjustments from a completely different position than you're in, right? So you think about from here, you fire, and then you move to the right a little bit. So I haven't picked up my mouse, so now because I moved to the right and I countered by moving my mouse to the left, my hand isn't in its original natural resting position. It's a little tweaked to the left, right? Because I had to move the aim to compensate for or the character moving to the right. So this little compensation move like that, right? These little compensation moves keep pushing my mouse over to the left, and each time my hand is in a brand new position, right? It's my hand is further kind of twisted to the left, depending on how I'm making the movement. Am I using just the wrist? Am I using my forearm, right? All of those positions are brand new. So it's really hard to get used to that. So what you want to do is just, not worry too much if it's not going well for you, because each little movement, your hand is in a brand new place. So there, what I did was when I reloaded, I reset my hand, right? So it's creeping left, 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 and then I reloaded. I repositioned my mouse by, bringing it back to center. And you can't just push your mouse back to center, because what that'll do is they'll throw your aim off again. So the only way to reset it after firing those shots is to lift it up. So, right. So if I go, let's do an extreme. We're gonna go start from here, and then fire, fire. Right. We're gonna just fire, 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 and go all the way. We're turning the mouse. Okay, my mouse is about to hit the edge here, as far as it can go. Right. So I was able to get this far without changing position. But now, let's say I wanted to go even further than this. Well, I'm stuck, so I'd have to lift the mouse. So my mouse is off the surface, and then I lay it back down where my hand is comfortable. And now from this position, I can keep going, right? And go further and further and further away. Until, again, my mouse reaches the edge of the surface, right? So I can't really, it's hard for me to move the mouse anymore. I could go the other direction, or I can lift up if I want to keep circling, right? So this little lifting up motion gives you more space. And you don't have to practice that one right away. That one's a little bit more advanced. In the beginning, what you just want to get used to is these small movements to counter the keyboard and counter, how your aim is changing as you're firing. And eventually, you should be able to do this continuous. So we were doing shoot, move, shoot, move, shoot, move, shoot, move. But what we can also do is just move continuously and fire when you're in position, right? So you're gonna move and try to get it in position. Right when it's in position, you want to fire, and you don't want to fire too late in this case. So there's a little bit of timing involved. If you fire too late, you'll miss that window, because naturally, you'll get some jitter again. So you want to time it so right when it's in position, you fire. So you don't have to do this with the circular kind of, this motion where you're moving left to right, But another way to do it is just lose the target. So in this case, here we're trying to keep the target, and then we can also do lose the target. So here we're just going to, as soon as you're on target, right? As soon as you're on target, you get this red bar on the dummy for its life, and you want to fire. And what you want to try to do in this case is you're sort of hitting a moving target, just like these targets up here that are moving around. You're trying to hit a moving target, but this time you're the one moving. The dummy isn't moving, right? So you lose target, and it's almost like a timing thing, right? So you know when it's gonna hit. So that's a lot easier than trying to move them, because in this case you're not moving the mouse. It's just pure keyboard. You're just trying to time that yellow thing. That's not really hard, because you know, it's just you just fire when it's about to arrive. But that's what you want to start to do with this aiming motion, continuous aiming motion, and just fire when it arrives. But arriving is not going to be based on timing, but instead just when is it aimed at his head, and when is it not aimed at his head. And you're going to just naturally miss a few shots, and that's okay. Because you're learning the controlled movement, right? You're learning that controlled movement between your keyboard and your mouse. And also knowing when you see something and being able to react to whatever it is you see. So by doing this, you're practicing a lot of things at the same time. So you don't have to worry too much about getting this, you know, getting this right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's just, you know, getting familiar with it. And, you know, you want to see what needs to be done. You know, it's not about like, oh, I got, you know, this many perfect shots, or it's like jittering too much. It's just all about, you know, are you starting to feel comfortable? You're starting to feel natural. Because you're not really going to have time to think about anything when you're in a firefight. It's just whatever feels natural. So we're coming down to one of our final clips here. And we're just doing this side to side. And again, if this is like, if you're missing all your shots, right? If you're missing all your shots, just slow it down. Do the move and aim again. Go back to a slower pace. You could go really slow, right? Go really, really slow. Go really slow. But when you go really slow, you know, really just focus on what is it that's making you miss, right? What is it? Well, it's gonna be the mouse, right? It's gonna be how you move the mouse and how it's getting repositioned. So the millisecond that you start moving with using the keyboard, that's the millisecond your mouse needs to start moving, and it needs to move at a pace that is exactly counter to the speed of the walk movement, right? So it has to counter that movement. Counter, left, right, counter it smoothly. You know. And if it's jittering because of the ground here, just stick to a small space right here, right? Just here and here, right? There's no, the ground is pretty flat, and I don't think, yeah, there's no up and down jitter when I do this. So if I just move a little bit, there shouldn't be too much jitter right here. If you want, you can move back to this flat surface up here. You know, and there's no jitter, right? There's no rocks on the ground. So really, if it's any up and down, it's because of the mouse movement, right? The dummy's head is a little smaller here because you're far away. So I like to stay, you know, closer, so it's easier to see and easier to get a bigger target like this. But just feel the counter movement. Let's try to keep tracking. You know, there's some software like Aim Labs where you can do these, but the reason why I prefer doing it in this firing range is because you get all the right game variables, right? Like the mouse sensitivity. Like I don't know if Aim Labs mouse sensitivity really matches. There's something that feels a little off. And the other thing is like the weapons and the sights, right? And the way the visuals are, right? Your field of view, all of these things, you might as well have it as accurate as possible. And if you're in the firing range, you're in the game, right? So it's going to be accurate. That doesn't mean that aim-labs is bad. I would definitely recommend using it if you like to use it. But if you want that pure game feel, firing range is going to be where it's at. Maybe those exercises aren't that different from what you're doing here, right? It's not really that different. You know, they make you track, they make you fire, you know, and that's what we're doing. We're tracking an object while we're moving. Now they have this thing where, you know, the target is moving, which is really important. Like up here, you know, the targets are moving. So that might be worth it, but in the beginning, you might as well just, you know, if you can't hit a stationary target, you're kind of going, you're making it really hard for yourself to hit a moving target. You're going to need to be able to do both things. But there's a lot of value in just doing this exercise, right? I think I'm almost out of bullets. And it's just calmly, you know, moving around. And, you know, get all your shots in. Here
I'm out of light ammo.
So we're all out, right? So, and you can see here with the P2020, I tried to do the same exercise and it's way off, right? Like look at this. Look how fast this moves compares to the R301, right? Because your foot speed is at the pistol rate, it's going to be a lot harder to do that exercise, which is why I didn't start with the P2020. That's something you'll want to do after you're very comfortable with the 301, right? So because it's a lot harder to track. It's a different speed for your hand, and it is important to do this exercise with the P2020 as well. You want to be able to do this with the pistol speed and a rifle speed.
I'm out of light ammo.
So there we go. That was the first aim practice pattern, which is just left to right and then track the mouse with the gun. Alright, so now we're going to do the next exercise, which is R301 again, because it's a lot slower when you aim. I mean, the mouse sensitivity goes way down, but also just your foot speed goes way down when you're aiming with the 301. Okay, so the next exercise is, again, we're gonna be moving, but this time we're gonna be moving up and down. So we're gonna use the crouch button. And what I like to do is, you know, hold the crouch button, and then move, and then release, and then move, right? So you gotta be able to do both of those things, because when you're in a firefight, you don't want to just move left to right. You want to crouch randomly, you know, so that your head is just that much harder to hit, right? It's not just two directions that the enemy has to shoot in. They have to move up and down with your head, which, you know, it's a whole nother dimension. So in this exercise, we're going to go up and down. So you stay in the same position, which is great because you're not using your mouse as much, but you're still using it in tracking, right? So we're going to fire a bullet, we're going to crouch, and keep the mouse on the target's head when you crouch. So you fire, and then you're going to crouch and move the cursor up, move the aim up. So fire, move the aim up, fire, move the aim down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So when you do this correctly, you're gonna really feel like your mouse didn't move, but that's sort of the goal. If it doesn't really jitter, right? So if I just crouch, I'm going to be aiming at his stomach, right? If I just crouch. So I gotta crouch and move up, crouch and move up. And when I stand, I gotta move the mouse down. So you end up tracking his head as you're moving up and down. So I'm gonna do the same exercise: crouch, shoot, stand, shoot, crouch, shoot, stand, shoot. And just think about, don't think about your hand, think about the guy's head and what it takes to counter your movement here. So again, pulling away, which is when you're standing, is a lot harder than when you're going down. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, you know. And also the speed is different. If you notice that, like when you crouch, it's kind of slow. When you stand, it's really fast. Did you notice that? Right? When you crouch, it takes a while to get down. But when you stand, it goes up really fast. You see that? I don't know. I don't think it's the same speed. Which means your mouse also has to move at a lot faster when you're standing. So you gotta pull your mouse, you know, pull your mouse down when you stand a lot faster, right? Than when you crouch. Stand, crouch, stand, crouch, stand, crouch, stand, crouch, right? So you gotta keep that speed difference in mind too. So just keep that in mind. Know that when you stand, you gotta move the mouse a little faster than when you crouch. So you crouch, stand, crouch, stand, crouch, stand, crouch, stand, crouch, stand, stand. Let me exaggerate it because sometimes it's hard to see on the screen. So I'm gonna exaggerate it. So crouch, stand, right? Stand, crouch, crouch, stand, crouch, stand, crouch, stand. So in this exaggerated motion, which you can try to, when you crouch, you're gonna hit his head. When you stand, you're gonna hit his feet or around his feet. So crouch, stand, crouch, stand. Because that's the sort of motion you're sort of countering, right? So again, you shoot above his head, above, below. So above when you're crouching down, below his feet when you're standing. So you're really exaggerating the motion, and you should start to feel a little dizzy here. So when you're standing, it's his feet, head, feet, crouch, head, stand, feet, crouch, head, stand, feet. And the good thing about this motion is that it's an exaggerated motion of the one here, right? So when you're standing, hit his feet. When you're crouching, hit above his head. And you can actually target him. So you go for the head. Sorry, when you're standing, you want to go for like his foot here. So be really accurate here. So foot, head, foot, head. Right? Because that will actually lead you closer to sticking to his head, right? You go foot, head, foot, head, foot, head, foot, head, foot, head, foot, head, foot, head. It's gonna start to feel more natural to do that motion. So, sorry, foot, head, foot, head, foot, head. All right. So now you got the foot, head. Now let's do like stomach, head. So you go stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach, head. So it's a little bit less exaggerated than foot, head. So you go stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach, head, right? Stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach. So stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach, head, stomach, head. And you're gonna start to feel like the enemy is not moving around as much. So because if you just stick with the crouching motion, the enemy is moving a lot, right? If you're not moving the mouse to counter this motion, you know, he's moving. He seems like he's moving around a lot, even though he's standing still. But if you do this counter mouse movement, he almost stays still. If you do it right, he almost stays still, and that's what you want. You want to be able to hit fire on a target that's not moving by moving with him, moving with, you know, the position change. It's almost like I'm not. It's gonna feel like almost like I'm not crouching. Almost like just doing this, the mouse, right? But you're adding the crouch motion, right? So we're gonna do a standing is gonna be stomach, head. So it's gonna start. It should start to feel like you're just doing up and down, right? You're not really thinking about your hand countering the keyboard. You're just doing stomach, head, and you're not thinking about the countering movement. It just happens naturally, right? That's sort of what you're trying to go for, right? That's what you're trying to go for. And then once you got the stomach, head, you know, at some point you can start practicing. It's gonna feel like you're just aiming stomach, head, right? But you're not doing it with your mouse. You're not doing stomach, head like that with your mouse. You're doing it in combination with the crouching motion. But the only thing you should be thinking about is, hey, I'm trying to aim for the stomach and aim for the head from these two different positions, right? Crouching and standing. Standing. That's sort of the mindset you want to have. That's what you want to be thinking about. It's just a really simple thing. It's hard to think about something complicated in the middle of a firefight. So we're just doing right, just doing stomach, head. Now we could go to just head. So head, 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 head. Let's just focus on just getting head, crouching, head, standing, head, crouching, head, standing. And your hand is naturally gonna compensate because it knows where it needs to shoot from next. So it's gonna naturally make that compensation because you don't want to lose aim of the head while you're crouching. Right? And again, go as slow as you need. Right? Really, by slowing it down, you You give your hand a chance to learn the motion that it needs to learn. Especially the standing one, because it goes faster when you stand, so. Fire, crouch. And really focus on just one thing at a time. So really focus on moving down quickly when I stand, right? Moving the mouse down quickly when I stand. So crouching, stand. So if you want, you can just focus on that. I just get that specific motion more comfortable. Stand. Forget about the crouch. Stand. Stand. Right? Stand. Just focus on that. Stand. 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 That muscle memory you're baking into your hand. You're baking into your controls. Stand. So that when you're in a situation where you're trying to shoot and you're trying to aim and you're trying to get someone, that muscle memory is just going to kick in and be in the right spot without you having to try very hard. So you're just baking that in, right? You're baking it into your motions. And in the beginning, it's just not baked in yet. So, and if you're just randomly playing, it'll eventually get baked in. But by doing this in the practice range with all the correct sensitivities that you're going to use in the game, and get a lot of repetitions out of this, there's a lot of value in that. So looks like there's some kind of lag. I can't shoot anymore. I don't know if the stream is still working, but yeah. Let's see what happens to the server here. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely some crazy lag going on. Okay. I'm just gonna keep practicing. Almost out of bullets again. Down to 147. And you just do it, without thinking too much, because the muscle memory is just gonna start to kick in, Just try not to fire too quickly after you, like while you're moving, right? So let the motion finish. with the motion finish. But what should move fairly quickly is actually the mouse as you track, because standing, you know, is so quick. Down to 80. And you can really see that, like, the difference in standing is where it usually messes up. I track pretty well on the crouching side. On the standing side, it's a lot harder because it's so much faster. Just like with the pistol, it's harder to track. Okay, down to 16. Alright, no reserve ammo. Down to 7.
I'm out of light ammo.
Alright, so that's it. So that was the second exercise. I'm going to go to the third one. The third one is just going to be a combination of the last two. Just a combination of the last two. So what we're going to do in the third exercise is we're going to shoot, move, right? We're going to shoot, move, crouch, move, right? So we're going to be doing this kind of zigzag pattern. So we fire, we move, we fire, we crouch, fire, we move while we're crouched, we fire, and then we stand, we fire. So that's the zigzag motion. And you could do it twice going left, and then twice going, or like 4 times going right, then 4 times going left, and 4 times going right. Or you could just do it once in the left and right direction. So here's an example. Shoot, left, shoot, crouch, shoot, left, shoot, stand. Shoot, right, shoot, crouch, shoot, right, shoot, stand. Shoot, right, shoot, crouch, shoot, right, shoot, stand. So that's the zigzag pattern. And you know what this is training you to do is really just be able to slowly crouch and strafe and fire at the same time, and be able to stay locked on the target, right? That's the hardest part of you know, trying to spam left and right, trying to avoid getting hit while hitting the target, right? But before you can get there, you want to be able to do this slowly, so you understand where your muscles need to start memorizing the movement. So let's pay attention to that. So let's go left. Sorry, I'm moving to the right. Fire, crouch, fire, right, fire, stand, fire, right, fire, crouch, fire. So I'm still focused on moving to the right. And go as right as far as we can go. Which is about there, I guess. Hit this wall here. Crouch, stand. And the dummy dies, you can just reload. So up, side, up, down, down. So there's all sorts of small movements here. There's all sorts of small movements here. And you know, crouch walking is going to be definitely a lot slower. So you can either just fire sooner, but you don't have to move, you don't have to move the same distance. Just focus on that zigzag pattern, you know. And think about sort of like predicting what motion is coming, right? You know, the side is coming. Right, and just keep practicing that. The muscle memory should start to kick in a little bit. And the other good thing about this is we're practicing different speeds of left and right? Because left and right while you're standing is that speed. Left and right while you're crouching is that speed. It's way slower, right? Way slower. And one thing you can take advantage of is stay in crouch position, aim, and then do that other exercise where you're just tracking its head. And notice that because you're moving so much slower while you're crouched, this previous exercise is actually a lot easier. Right? It's so much easier because you're moving so much slower than when you were standing. If you're standing, you're moving faster. You have to track faster. But when you're crouching, it's a lot easier to get your shots in. So, and in the zigzag pattern, you're practicing both, right? Because you're standing, move quicker, you crouch, you move slower, stand, faster, crouch, move slower, right? That zigzag pattern is a good variety of different speeds, but keep in mind what is happening, right? Keep in mind what is happening. Like, when is it fast? Here, moving left is going to be fast, so I'm going to move the mouse faster. Then fires. Then crouching is kind of slow, so I'll move the mouse slower. Fire. Then moving to the left is while crouched is going to be slower. Then standing is going to be faster, right? So you just think about those speed differences, and your hand is gonna kind of naturally want to work at the right speeds, but you just gotta know that there is a speed difference. So the zigzag is not like a symmetrical speed thing. It's kind of disjointed. See that the speed is different for all the different positional changes you're doing, which makes it a really compound and complicated practice. But I think there's a lot of value in making these small compensation moves at different speeds. It's not the same thing all the time, right? It's changing in a pattern that you're kind of getting used to. So it's 2 shots up and then 2 shots down while crouched. 2 shots standing, 2 shots crouched. Right, 2 shots standing, 2 shots crouched. And you want to go as slow as you need to. So when I reload, that's when I reposition my mouse to the most comfortable position. Reload, mouse fix. Yeah. 2 shots crouched, 2 shots standing, 2 shots crouched. So a lot of it is also it's predicting, right? And it's strange to say predicting when it's your movement that you're doing. But you gotta be thinking ahead in terms of, okay, what am I about to do? What am I trying to do? So that your muscles can react the right way. So by having that zigzag pattern already in your mind, you're saying to yourself, hey, I know what I'm going to do, and I need to make the compensation. I need to be ready for that compensation that I know I'm going to do. So I'm predicting, in a sense, and it's preparing, right? It's preparing. So you know you're going to be doing that motion. So it's not random. It's not random. You know you're going to be doing these motions, and your body is just preparing to do what it needs to do in those positions, right? I think I'm getting stuck on this ramp. Alright, it's pretty good. This game is really the aim is probably the most important thing in the game. you don't have aim, you can't really play, I think. You gotta have that aim. I think that's an important, it's such an important part. It's almost like the point of the whole game. It's the whole point of the game. The other stuff is like, makes it more enjoyable. The foundation is always gonna be aim. It's a shooting game, right? You could do a lot without aim, which is makes the game kind of fun too. You don't need aim to be a good healer, or you don't need aim to have great position. But at the end of the day, if you can't aim, you're not gonna get knocks, and you're not gonna win. So I think it's just valuable. It's the fundamentals. It's really a fundamental part of the game, right? And you don't have to become a master. You don't have to become a master, but you want to improve. And this is, I think, the best way to really improve the aim. So we're getting close to the end here. Just thinking about the different speeds of my movements, different speeds of moving left to right, different speeds of when crouching, standing, right, and strafing. Really working on all those different types of speed differences. So it might be helpful to just say fast or slow when you're doing movement. So fast, slow, slow, fast, fast, slow, slow, fast, fast, right? What you're telling when you say fast and slow, you're telling your muscles, hey, this motion is going to be a little bit faster than usual or a little bit slower than usual. So you go shoot fast. Sorry, that was that was fast, and then slow, slow, fast, fast, slow, slow, fast, fast, right? The motion that's coming up. So left to right is fast. So it's fast, fast. Oh, sorry, that was slow. Slow, slow, fast, fast, slow, slow, fast, fast, right? Fast, slow. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's slow, slow, fast, fast, slow, slow, fast. Right. And then we're almost done here. 8 shots. fast, slow, slow, fast, fast, slow, slow,
I'm out of light
fast.
ammo.
Alright, so that was the end of that exercise. So we did those 3 different patterns. We did left to right, and then we did crouching standing. Then we did the combination of left to right and crouching standing in a zigzag. And we did this all with the R301 with good attachments. And the thing you want to do is do this with the other guns and also with fewer attachments. So when you do this with fewer attachments, you know, the feeling of this is really gonna change, right? So you do 301. This time there's no attachments. You could do it with no scope or with a scope, you know, and you just do the same exercise again to get used to it, you know. You could do it with on single fire mode or multiple fire mode, and then just like do bursts. For example, we'll do like bursts, or you could switch to single fire mode. You know, it's up to you. But you're working on like just the same tracking, right? The same tracking. You're not always gonna have like the right scope, right? You're gonna sometimes you just have no scope, and you gotta go. You gotta work with what you've got, you know. You gotta work with what you've got. And then I believe the speed should be the same, but remember you're always zoomed in a different amount, right? I don't know how close the zooms are, but each one of these has a different kind of zoom to it, right? So you do this one, right? It has a different feel. It has a different feel. Now your muscle memory is going to help you a lot to stay tracked on his head, but it's different. It's a different look. It's gonna feel different. Right, and then we just do like this one. You do this one at 1x. Or you could do it at 2x. Just has a different feel again. You know, so the size of the target is different. But most of the muscle memory should still be pretty useful. Okay, so we've done all those. Then you want to try, like, say, a pistol. So pistol is definitely different because you're moving super fast. So we'll try it with let's try it with no scope. Right, so see how much faster you move. Like, look at this speed here. You're moving super fast. So you gotta compensate super fast. Right, so you just practice this. And of course that's super fast, so you can stay crouched and get a little bit of a slower pistol speed, but it's still pretty fast, right? And then you do the zigzag practice. You do the zigzag, which is up, fast, right? The zigzag practice. And I think at a minimum you should do a rifle. Right? You should do a rifle and a pistol, minimum. because those are the two types of guns you're going to be using the most. You know, you can use a wingman as a pistol. But yeah, pistol and then a regular rifle, and SMG, LMG. Yeah, those two types of guns, you want to get really comfortable with the speeds of those, and really bake those into your muscle memory. Then another thing you could practice is for the aim is practice not aiming down sights and hip fire, right? Because so far we've been doing a lot of aim down sights and doing the zigzag, but here we're gonna just do hip fire, right? See, again, I think it's a slightly different speed, right? Hip fire is a different speed. I'm using the 30-30 because the 30-30 has a pretty accurate hip fire. If you use something like a Rampage or something, you know, the hip fire, you know, where's the there's not even a little thing like a dot to aim at. I mean, you just kind of have to predict, which is not to say it's not accurate, but it's hard to see what the heck you're aiming at, which is also useful in a way, but the speeds are different, and maybe you can try that practice a little bit later, right? So SMG also doesn't have a hip fire target. Wingman does not. So that's kind of the reason why. This has a huge area, right? Where's the center of this thing? It's maybe there, right? And it didn't even hit, right? It's just spraying all over the place. So it's not. I don't see that as super useful for hip fire practice. Let's try this one. This is not bad, right? This is not bad. You get a smaller kind of zone. The flat line, let's see. Flat line, yes, flat line is nice because it has a little dot where you can aim at. It doesn't mean that every bullet's gonna go to that dot. Right? But see, that one hit his shoulder, I guess, and that one missed his head, right? So, you know, you can do it, and at least it has the dot, so it makes it easier to do the practice. But just expect not every shot is going to hit, and you don't have to worry about that. What you're just practicing is getting used to the motions. So with the hip fire, so we're going to do hip fire, crouch, right? It's the same practice. Right, same practice, just without the aim down sights part. And you're gonna get a lot more misses. You can switch to single fire mode, so I recommend. And the reason why we're doing this without aiming down sights is when you're in close combat, you're not gonna want to aim down sights. Especially if you have a scope or something attached. It's just going to be way too zoomed in, and you just can't move around fast enough, right? Because look at the motion here, right? This is aiming down, and this is not aiming down. Look at that. Look at that walk speed. Look at that walk speed. It's way different. Way different. So if you're trying to become a harder target to hit, you want to go with that. Right? Way harder. So, way harder to hit for the enemy. So yeah, I think those things. So just to recap, we've got the R301 or rifle, aim down sights, left and right, crouching, and then zigzag. Then you've got pistol, aim down sights, left to right, crouching, zigzag. Then you've got pistol without aiming down sights, left, right, crouching, zigzag. Then you've got rifle without aiming down sights, hip fire, left to right, crouching, and zigzag. So you've got a lot of different patterns you can use, and you should practice. And all of these different practices are gonna, help you get that muscle memory in place for all the different major situations you're gonna be in. And each exercise is gonna help the others because you're getting controlled, movements in your weapon, in your control, right? Each different exercise. So you don't have to worry that, oh, maybe there's one situation that you didn't cover. That's gonna come over time as you play with different weapons, different guns, as you master different weapons. It's gonna come with practice. Hip firing with the pistol is quite a challenge, especially if you're trying to go for headshots. It's not impossible, and the advantage of doing this, these exercises at hip fire, is in a real combat situation here in the game. There's going to be a lot of times when you want to just hip fire because you're trying to move faster than the enemy can hit you. But there's always this trade-off, right? Because you're moving so fast, it's getting harder to aim. Right? It's getting harder to aim. So it's harder for them, but it's also harder for you. And so when you're trying to win at the game, you want to have an advantage that you can move fast and aim, and the other person is struggling to keep up with your movement. And that's where really the competition happens, right? Can you move fast to make it as hard as possible for them to hit you, while you are able to control your aim really well so you hit them? And that comes down to being able to track when they're moving, because that becomes another variable that we can't practice too well in here. That's when you can jump onto AimLab and practice, which is you're moving and they're moving, right? Because in this practice, we're just doing it where I'm moving, the target is not moving. So that's a variable that, because it's static, it's actually easier. It's that much harder when the target is moving around, especially the way the pros would move around, which is they're crouching, they're moving left and right, they're keeping it super random, and you're just trying to track that, right? You're just trying to track that, and if you see a pattern, it gets a little easier, but it's a whole nother game, right? It's a whole nother level, and you want to be able to handle that as quick and fast as possible. But that begins with being able to do this at a slow pace, in the firing range on a stationary target as in easy mode as possible. And you just work your way up, because the easy mode eventually becomes way too easy, and you're gonna have to step it up by trying a harder practice. So you know how to make the practice harder here, right? You know that crouching with like an R301 is gonna with aim down sights is gonna be like one of the slowest movement patterns, right? You're crouched, you're moving, and you're crouching. That's very slow. So that's something you should be able to handle. Then as you want to make it harder, you pick a pistol, or you don't aim down sights, right? And then that's how you make it harder for yourself, because everything moves faster. And you just create these levels for yourself, and you work at the level where you're pretty comfortable, but you're a little bit uncomfortable, just a little bit. If you're super uncomfortable, you might not, you're not gonna make as much progress, I think, because it's just frustrating, and you don't know like what's going on. So you just want to be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit challenged, right? Whatever is a little bit challenging for you. And really, even the slowest one, right? The crouching, it's challenging still. It's still challenging. So, stick with it. Stick with it for a while. Stick with it until it feels like almost like, oh, this is like just way too boring. Like it's just way too easy. Then move on, right? There's nothing wrong with sticking to it, and even if it's easy, just enjoy the easiness of it for a little bit. Enjoy the easiness, and then make it more challenging. Okay, now I'm gonna do standing. Oh, that's a lot harder. Yeah, that's a lot harder, right? So then stick with that. Stick with standing for a while until standing becomes like, oh, standing is way too easy. Then take off aim down sights, and then or try a pistol, right? And you'll be like, oh, that's still way too easy, And then we'll go to aim labs, do like when the targets are moving and you're moving, that's gonna be a lot harder. You could kind of do it in this firing range with the moving targets up there, and I think there's a way you can make the dummies move actually. And I'll do another video on practicing doing that. But see, even with this target up here, it's kind of moving, so you can sort of practice tracking it. You're moving left and right, Right, just moving left and right while it's moving left and right. Right, so there's ways you can sort of practice that. But the moving dummies one is probably going to be a really good one. So there's a special way to turn on moving dummies in this training mode, and I have to look it up because I don't remember what the secret is. But you go somewhere, you crouch down for some amount of time, I think. But yeah, that's pretty much the aim practice for beginners that I would start with. So yeah, give that a try and let me know in the comments what you guys think. All right, later.